What is going on, beautiful people? Will Mitchell here, coming to you from our new office. This is maybe the most exciting thing ever. You might notice we look a little bit more professional. We're trying to level things up for you guys. We're trying out new mics again. Let us know in the comments section if the new mic is working. If it's not, we always appreciate the feedback. Today, we're gonna give you guys the next video in our comparative analysis series. So today we're gonna be comparing Belize and Panama. I got all the notes here. We've had our team doing some research on Panama, trying to get the facts all straight for you guys. If you have any feedback to any of the information in the video, please put it in the comments section. I love going to Panama. It's a place that I frequently visit. Panama City is a ton of fun. It's a large city. There's a lot of different amazing restaurants and nightlife there. So I really do love Panama. You guys know we're a little bit biased to Belize. We are in Belize. We're sitting on the beautiful island of Ambergris Caye. So bear that in mind when we're delivering this information. But with all that being said, let's dive into it and give you guys some of the facts. So top level details that I'm sure a lot of you guys know already. Belize is English speaking. The primary language here is English speaking. It's a British parliamentary democracy. In Panama, as I'm sure many people know as well, it's a Spanish speaking country based on civil law. From a population standpoint and a population density standpoint, Belize is the fourth lowest density populated country in the Western Hemisphere. So when you're looking at the population of Belize, it's about 390,000 approximately. Contrasting that to Panama, which has a population of 4.315 million, according to 2020 census data. And the population density is about 58 people per kilometer squared, whereas Belize is about 17. So substantially higher from a population and population density standpoint. The currency of Belize is the Belize dollar, but everywhere you go, US dollars are accepted. So you can use your US credit cards, US dollars, real estate transactions transact in US dollars. And when you look at Panama, Panama does have its own currency, but for the most part, from all of my experience in Panama, everything really transacts in US dollars there. So in both cases, very easy to maneuver around, use your US dollars if you have it, use credit cards from abroad, and both really great countries from that standpoint. If you look at the inflation rate in Belize as of 2020 data, it was 0.9 versus in Panama was 1.25. So in the videos, we usually talk about taxes, we usually talk about residency, we usually talk about ownership rights, just to give you guys some of the topics that we will be discussing today. Starting off with the best. Usually you save the best for last. Not us. We get the best right away. We have taxes for you guys. So let's dive into the taxes. In Belize, when you look at rental income on a monthly rental basis, it's taxed at 3%. If you are doing a nightly rental, you would require a hotel or Airbnb tax license, and that would be taxed at 9%. So it's a higher tax rate. It's flat, very easy. There's no capital gains tax in Belize. There's no estate tax in Belize. Property taxes are very, very low on any given property. It's 1% of the assessed value of the bare land. So for example, we're sitting in Mahogany Bay Village. The lots go for about 150,000, 160,000 after recent price increases, but the property taxes there are about $150 per year, paid once per year in April. So from a tax standpoint, very favorable. There is a transfer tax in Belize. There are ways you can maneuver that. It's 5 to 8% for the transfer tax. And yeah, just a little bit of an overview on the tax landscape there. Corporate tax in Belize is 3%. When you look at Panama, it's a little more complex. They do have a lot of sliding scales depending on income and revenue levels. So from a rental income standpoint, the tax rate shifts up to 11,000, it's 0%. 11,000 to 50,000, it's 15%. And over 50,000, it's 25%. Capital gains tax is taxed at a rate of 10%. There's also no estate tax in Panama. Corporate tax is 25%. And there is a 2% transfer tax in Panama. So as for the property taxes in Panama, it does depend on if it's your first or primary residence. So on your primary residence, up to 120,000, it's 0%. 120,000 to 700,000 in value, it's 0.5%. And 700,000 or above, it's 0.7%. If you look at any property that's not your primary residence, up to 30,000, it's 0%. 30,000 to 250,000 is 0.6%. 250 to 500 is 0.8%. and anything above 500,000 is 1%. So that's a little overview of the landscape. From a tax standpoint, Belize is more favorable. There's just more tax breaks in Belize, to be completely frank about it. But yeah, let's carry on here. Quick side note, just to talk about the geographic landscape of both countries. Panama does offer some stuff that Belize doesn't have, which is major kind of cities, major metropolises. Like if you look at Panama City, it is a very large city. It does have a bit of a Miami feel, which if some people are looking for that city feel, Belize probably is not the best place for you. Belize does have an amazing mainland component and island components. We're sitting in Ambergris Key right now. It's the largest island in Belize. It's got beautiful beaches. We have the Barrier Reef, which is the largest living reef in the world, 187 miles long. You have jungle, rainforest, everything on the mainland. But yeah, just to kind of give you an idea of what the landscape is like. Panama has a variance of all of these things, but it does have Panama City, which is a large kind of metropolis city. One side note and caveat, in Panama, you can find that an IBC will help you navigate a lot of these tax circumstances, so it is a good thing to look into utilizing an IBC if you are looking at Panama real estate or relocating to Panama. From an ownership rights standpoint, as you guys know already, I'm sure if you've watched our videos, Belize is full foreign ownership, fee simple title. You get the actual land title for your property. You can have your name, you can have your LLC, whatever kind of ownership you want to have on that property, you can do so. So it is really identical in many cases to most other common law countries, which is great. Especially about Panama, when you see a country that's Napoleonic civil law, usually it has a two-tier ownership structure where foreigners and locals do not have the same ownership rights. Fortunately in Panama, they do have foreign ownership. So as a foreigner, you can actually own Panama real estate, which we were very excited to see, and that was a great check mark for Panama. So just some of the high-level notes for you guys. Foreigners can own property in Panama. Title property in Panama is similar to the US. Panama has a sophisticated public registry system. One thing that is important to note is that they have very strong squatter rights, or they call them possessor rights, through simple certification documents issued by either municipal mayors, sheriffs, or other government organizations can help squatters acquire property, which in Belize has very strict squatter rights. In many cases, it's almost impossible to make a squatter claim to a property. You'd have to actually be occupying that property for 30 years and a number of other things you need to do. So from that squatter standpoint, Panama is definitely a worse situation. And overall, slight nod to Belize, but Panama does very well in the ownership rights category. So let's talk about residency, guys. If you've watched our videos on Belize, you've seen the process to get residency in Belize. I'll quickly go over it again. Repetition is always the mother of learning. So when you enter Belize and they stamp your passport, you're issued a 30-day tourist visa. That visa can be renewed in perpetuity. If you're on the island here, you would go across from Tropic Air. The immigration is above the Remax Island Real Estate Office there. You go in, you pay a $200 fee, they stamp your passport, you're good for another 30 days. They do have a program right now during COVID where I believe you can extend it up to 90 days, so you don't have to go into the immigration office as much. And really, as long as you have any valid reason, and it could even be, I like laying on the beaches of Belize, which is a completely valid reason. Quite possibly the best reason, if you ask me, you're good to extend that visa. If you're looking to acquire residency, there's a few ways that you can do so. One way is to be in the country of Belize for 1 year's time. You can leave for a total of 14 days. At the end of that period, you can then apply to be a permanent resident of Belize. And after having that permanent residency for 5 years, you can apply to be a citizen. The alternative method is the investor residency program, which if you invest $250,000 into real estate, business, whatever the case may be, and you can quantify that, then a lawyer can help you acquire investment residency in Belize. So these are the two ways to go about it. It's fairly straightforward to get a work permit, but what the government does look for is that you're not taking a job from a local Belizean. So if it's something that a local Belizean could do, then you're gonna wanna take the route of opening a business. If you're doing something where you're creating jobs, it's a very pro-forward investment country where you can really operate and do extremely well. And there's a ton of opportunities from a business standpoint, lots of things that haven't been done here that are fairly straightforward to set up. So that would be the avenue I'd recommend pursuing. But if you have a specialty skill and you want to get a work permit, it's definitely possible. So let's talk about Panama residency, guys. I've got my notes right here. So there's several ways to get residency in Panama. There is the Panama Pensioner Retiree Visa for anyone 18 years of age or older. Who's retiring at 18, guys? I don't know. But if you are, get in the comment section, I'm curious. So for anyone 18 years of older with a minimum pension or annuity paying a minimum of $1,000 US per month, you can qualify for that. Another $250 must be paid per month by the annuity or pension for each dependent, just so you have kind of all the details there. There's the Friendly Nations visa. So Panama has a list of 50 approved friendly nations, and if you're wondering, most of our viewers are from the US and Canada. Both of those countries are on the list, so you're part of that friendly nation, and then you can qualify for their investment residency, which is $200,000. So slightly cheaper than what you would find in Belize, and for the most part, I think a lot of our viewers will be from one of those 50 nations. Sorry guys, business never stops here. Professional employment visa. So foreigners working for a Panama company in a professional capacity, paying Social Security, taxes, and holding a college degree can become a permanent resident after 2 years of being a temporary resident. So those are some of the primary avenues to becoming a permanent resident within the country of Panama. There's some other ways you can do it, but in general, those are going to be the main ways people are going to do it. Overall, in this category, it's hard for me to say this, but I'm going to give the nod to Panama. It is a little bit easier to operate there. From a business standpoint, I think Belize is an easier place to navigate with more opportunities for entrepreneurs, but simply just landing in the country and becoming a resident there, it's slightly easier in Panama. Let's talk about cost of living. Something that's really important if you actually want to move to the country. We have a lot of people that want to invest, a lot of people want to be down part-time, so cost of living is an important category to look at. And we have some price indexes here that we pulled from online that basically compare the two. If you Google cost of living in Panama versus cost of living in Belize, this is probably the first link you're going to find. So consumer prices in Panama are 1.58% higher than in Belize without rent. Consumer prices including rent in Panama are 17.09% higher than in Belize. Rent prices in Panama are a whopping 94.92% higher than rent in Belize. Restaurant prices in Panama are 25.49% higher than in Belize. Groceries are 7.70% higher. And local purchasing power in Panama is 31.55% lower. According to most of the links we found, what we found in our findings is that the cost of living in Belize is substantially lower than in Panama. I mean, you'll find that Panama does have some stuff that Belize doesn't have in terms of high-level amenities and stuff, but overall, you're going to find a much more affordable environment when you look at Belize versus looking at Panama. So guys, obviously Panama and Belize are countries. There's a lot of different places within these countries that you can acquire real estate, so taking a blanket for the markets is going to be very hard, if not impossible, especially when you don't have MLSs and access to great data. But what I can tell you is when you look at properties in Panama based on some of our initial research, it's about $300,000 for a 3-bedroom. That's the starting point, and it can go up from there, obviously. Depends where you're looking. They say, according to a lot of the research we've done, in safe areas, proper safe areas. So if you are looking to be in an area that might be a little more dangerous, then I'm sure you can find better deals. But according to a lot of our research, that's what we found. In Belize, you're going to have a pretty wide variance. Something we talk about with a lot of our clients who are acquiring property in Ambergris Key is building their property, acquiring the land. The cost to build right now is cheaper than buying a built home or condo because a lot of those properties are selling for substantially above the replacement cost. So it is something that we deal with quite frequently with our clients. And yeah, it's a great avenue for you to pursue. But in Belize, you can find condos starting at around $150,000. It goes up from there. Again, this is very much dependent on square footage, size of the property, areas, but just to give you a rough idea, in both cases, you can find areas where you're going to find great deals on condos. So in my opinion, it's relatively close. It might be slightly more expensive if you're looking to be in a major city in Panama, but overall, it's very close. If you're looking at flights and accessibility, I'm sure you guys have seen our video on direct flights to Belize. If you haven't, we'll put a link in the description there for you guys to check that out. But we have direct flights from most major cities in the US, as well as Calgary and Toronto in Canada. That's seasonal flights. Probably they're going to be starting up in December here, maybe the end of November. If you look at the US, Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Seattle has recently added flights with Alaska Air. Alaska Air also added flights out of LA. What am I missing? Denver, Charlotte, the list goes on and on. Basically, any kind of major US city has a direct flight to Belize, and it's very close to the US. If you don't know where Belize is, it's just south of Mexico, north and east of Guatemala. So if you're wondering where it is on the map, it's basically right by the US, just south of Mexico. Panama obviously is a little bit further south in Central America. So if you're looking for proximity from a land standpoint, you can drive quite easily to Belize if you want. The land border is something that we use frequently to go to Cancun, Tulum, Playa, go for little weekends. That's something you won't have in Panama. Panama does have more international airports and access points, but according to all of our research, primary airport is, I have it right here, the Tocumen Airport. If I butchered that, I'm sorry guys. They have 72 destinations and 18 airlines that are flying out of that airport. The remaining airports in general only have one destination, one airline, with the exception of Marcos A. Gilbert International Airport with 10 destinations and one airline. But overall, a lot of that traffic is coming through Panama City at the primary airport there. So from a land arrival standpoint, Belize gets the nod. Distance and proximity, Belize gets the nod. Duration of the flight, Belize gets the nod. From the number of airports, frequency of flights, and direct flights, Panama gets the nod. The way we have it here, it's pretty much 3 for 3, a wash on accessing. They're both very easy to access and in close proximity to the US. So from a tourism standpoint, you'll see that Panama, obviously with a country that has such a large population, more international flights, you're gonna see more tourism. They're growing relatively at the same pace. In Panama, in 2019, they saw 2,494,000 total tourists. In Belize, we saw 1,647,000 total tourists. For a country that's smaller like Belize, it's an extremely healthy number. One of the things you'll find with a lot of the rentals in Belize, and I'm sure most people looking to come to Belize or visit, or if you have been down, you'll notice that the average daily rate is quite a bit higher in Belize than most places. If you've been following our comparative analysis series, then you would have seen that already, and that's a perfect transition into us talking about the rental markets a little bit. So from the average daily room rate, and we have the data here that we pulled from Airbnb, in Ambergris Caye versus Panama City, we're just taking two major markets in each country. In Ambergris Caye, it's $165 per night on a nightly rental basis, versus contrasting to Panama, which averages around $75, $80 a night. So substantially higher, almost double as much. If you're looking at 3-bedroom, because we do break down unit count in the market, and overall, the Ambergris Caye market has more studio 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. That's just the way the island's been developed out. There's less larger homes. If you guys want to get more information on that data, we're happy to share it. But when you look at 3-bedroom homes, because there aren't many in the rental pool, or 3+ bedroom homes in San Pedro and Ambergris Caye, it's about $400 per night US on average, contrasted to Panama City, which is about $75, $80, about $125, $150 per night on average. So substantially higher again. Talking about revenue, in the COVID period, it has kind of tightened up a bit, but from a rental revenue standpoint on nightly rentals, Ambergris Caye does edge it out a bit. You'll see the average for Ambergris Caye probably hovers around 1.5K versus Panama, which is hovered around 750, but that gap has tightened up a bit during this COVID period. But as we continue to see travel restrictions open up more, we're gonna see those rates continue to go back up and recover. When you're looking at revenue on a 3+ bedroom basis, the numbers in San Pedro and Ambergris Caye are substantially higher. Around 4K is the average versus Panama, which really varies anywhere around 1K. Probably hovers recently just around 2,000. So it's a little bit higher there. To give you guys the final overview, there's a ton of benefits to both countries. Like I said in the beginning, I love visiting Panama. I love going in for a weekend, enjoying the restaurants, seeing my friends there. It's a great place if you're going to Panama City. They also have great rural areas, so I really love it. For me, Belize is where I want to be. It's a complete change of pace. I love the island life. I love being able to go to the jungles. I love all of the geographic components. That's a great factor. The English speaking is huge. Taxes, ownership rights, cost of living, real estate prices, and tourism. For Panama, the big benefits that we found were the ownership rights, residency was a big one, flights and accessibility, and tourism. So both places have a ton of great benefits, guys. If you're looking at Panama and want to learn more about Belize, reach out to us. We'll put my email at the bottom throughout the video. And if you guys have any questions about Belize, please reach out. Aside from that, our office is almost done. You guys can see we're finally filming a video from here. Soon we'll have an office tour for you guys, and hopefully we can continue to raise the bar on the quality of the content we deliver for you. And if you guys have any questions, comments, please put them in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, guys, we can't wait to see you down here in paradise.